He is scheming on how to dominate everything.
Wait, hold on. So, how did that come about?
What makes Calvin Johnson Megatron?
We're playing the Bears. I got Peanut Tillman. Smart player.
Shout out to Peanut.
Created my dog.
His own technique.
The Peanut Punch. I'll say I've never been a victim to it my whole career, thank God.
So DBs, you had no chance. And I'm upset because I'm a DB.
It's okay.
I'm a defensive back.
But it was out of your control.
But now I know.
There's peace.
I can tell you, all of you guys can rest in knowing that you had no chance.
Welcome to the G.O.A.T series, powered by NESTRE, with your hosts, Dr. Tommy Shavers and me, Chloe DeLuca. We are rolling out a new series on the podcast that highlights the minds of the best athletes, high performers, CEOs, and top leaders in their industry. So we're sitting down with the 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, Detroit Lions legend, and first ballot Hall of Famer, Calvin Johnson, A.K.A. Megatron. Let's dive into the mind of Calvin Johnson. The information being presented is not meant to replace the advice from a licensed medical doctor and should not be used to treat or diagnose any medical conditions. This podcast makes no medical claims. All health-related tips are for teaching and informational purposes only. All right. Welcome back, guys. Well, you have not been here before.
I haven't.
So welcome to our studio.
Thanks for having me.
So this is my first time meeting Calvin. And my first experience with you has been very interesting because he has an aura, a lore about him where we walk around and people, mind you, if you don't know Calvin, he has a nickname called Megatron. He fits the description. He's a little bit taller. And so naturally, people are drawn to oh, he's tall. But then when you put his record of things he's done behind him, it was a lot of attention today. What's that like?
It's cool. Just being, in the light to a lot of people. You got to carry yourself a certain way. I've been in a situation where I wasn't carrying myself in the best way. What I learned in that situation is that I got to be on point at all times. I got to be on point for my fans, even if I don't feel like it, because I never want that situation to come up where that old lady comes to me and is like, hey, last time I met you, you were an asshole to me. That it hurt me on the inside. And I was like, oh, I won't let that happen again. That's how you keep that, keep that in check, even though there are people maybe gawking, you just don't feel like talking or taking pictures, but it means a lot more if you take that little bit of time.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. If you think about what makes you great, but just thinking about the mindset you have to also think about the people you influence and the people you impact.
The mindset of someone who is elite, they think about all the complexities and the different ways in which that looks like, whether it's on the field as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a business owner, CEO, and as a person who has fans. So it's watching that in real time too, because not everyone has that ability to think about what how their impact is for the people that are looking at them. Yeah. And that is also another form of GOAT mentality.
100%. I've told people a lot that, Calvin's one of the best humans I've ever met. That's a part of your GOATness, is your ability to just have this sense of humanity about you. Watching people around, if you'd have to be somewhere, and everybody's demanding your time. You're having genuine conversations with everyone, genuine conversations. Right, yeah. And that says so much about your greatness as a human, right? Because sometimes individuals, at the expense of their greatness in their profession or occupation, they sacrifice the greatness in their humanity, and I think it was great, just the story you just shared about just realizing that, hey, when I impact people's lives, and the empathy and the social awareness that it takes to do that. I think that's awesome.
So let me kind of set it up.
Go for it.
So this is such an exciting series, and we're so excited to bring on the people that matter to us, that have been on the journey with NESTRE or in our personal lives. And so we want to highlight the best parts of what makes someone amazing, and to be able to be in a conversation with someone who is literally a legend in the sport of football. I'm more excited to see how all of the high performing abilities you have in your mind translate into like your everyday life. How does that translate into being a father? How does that translate into being a husband? How does that translate into being a friend and an owner? And so that, you know, we love talking about the performance aspect of it. And football just was impacted by how your brain was wired. And NESTRE, I'm kind of getting excited, so forgive me, but NESTRE is a company that shows us what your mind can do, what is going on under the hood of your skull. And so go ahead.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, just imagine being able to, in 3 minutes, capture data that quantifies any individual's unique characteristics, their greatness, their uniqueness, their recipe for what we say in being their GOAT. Everyone has a GOAT. You know, we're sitting with one of the GOATs of all times, but everyone has your own GOAT. And how do you find and discover your GOAT? And so a part of this is, one, we're showing this amazing technology that we have, this capability, but two, we're getting inside the minds and the brains of greatness in ways nobody else has ever been able to do.
Right.
And so we're going to talk about what makes Calvin Johnson Megatron. You know, what are these areas? What's his recipe for greatness? And how we literally extrapolated that data from his mind and his brain, and we quantified it here. And I'll just go ahead and, you know, spoiler alert, under high stress, his top 6 areas are all elite. So DBs, you had no chance. And I'm upset because I'm a DB.
It's okay.
I'm a defensive back.
But like, it was out of your control, you know?
But now
there's peace.
I can tell you, all of you guys can rest in knowing that you had no chance.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about that. But I wanted to say really quick, because people have asked, how do we partner with Calvin Johnson? How did this thing happen? And kind of 2 quick stories. One is just a testament to shoot your shot, because you never know when the timing was. There was no relationship with Calvin at all. I was building this thing. I thought about the people who I thought it would resonate with. I saw somewhere reading that Calvin was in this next chapter of his life. He wanted his legacy to be around wellness and giving people hope around the betterment of life. And I'm like, that just lines up with what I'm building with NESTRE. So you knowing me, the alpha I am, I'm like,
care about what access he did or didn't have. I'm going in.
I'm going. And so I went to their website. I look and I'm like, okay, how do I contact him there? All right, I'm going to hey, Calvin, and this is what I'm doing. I think it really fits with you guys. Hit send. I kid you not. It was probably 60 seconds.
Oh, really? I don't know this story.
And I had an email. I opened the email and it was from Calvin and his co-founder saying, hey man, read your stuff. We'd love to have a meeting with you. When can you meet? Come to find out, the backstory was they were building their site, building their company. They were in the process of having this debate around on their website, should they have a contact me section? And they were like, this is why we did it.
They use it.
It works. And they reached out, and it was just timing. And fast forward, I even had the honor and the privilege of writing Calvin's Hall of Fame speech, which was the most terrifying thing I've done in sports.
You did that?
In my life.
Wait, hold on. So, how did that come about?
I think I reached out to Tommy at some point. I was trying to figure it out. I knew Tommy to be a very good writer, and I just needed some help. I needed some direction, and Tommy definitely gave me that. He gave me a ton of direction. I forgot how much time we spent on it, but we had just a couple calls that we had there, and Tommy came in the clutch in 21 for that one. It was like, you don't know, that was so nerve-wracking. Just writing the speech, having to write the speech. Tommy we sat down and went through what we kind of wanted it to be, and small edits, but the bulk of it, yes, there was, Tommy put some work in with me and we got that thing on paper. That was tough. That was just tough what made it so tough wasn't the fact that just putting stuff on paper, it's the fact that you got to put 8 minutes worth of your whole career in 8 minutes.
So that's what the parameters around the Hall of Fame speech is.
It started so big because he had so much life. You had to take all this in this moment and condense it into this meaningful conversation, that you got to give in a short amount of time. And
all the people, it's like, how do you...
Who makes the cut?
Yeah, exactly. That part, that's tough.
I just remember when it was almost like writing a hit song. Like it was like, it really was like producing. And I remember when we came up with the line, because you got to have something memorable in there.
Yeah.
And I remember when we came up with the memorable line and I was like...
Yeah, that was a good line.
And I was about, he goes, ooh, that's good. That's good. That's going to hit. And so it was talking about Detroit. And so if you hadn't heard his Hall of Fame speech, go and listen to his Hall of Fame speech.
And so, Calvin, kind of talk a little bit about what NESTRE kind of meant to you and what drew you to the company, and then what kind of made you stick around and further be an ambassador. And
well, my partner Rob Sims and I, when we started our company, we were really focused on wellness, and everything around wellness, from plants to things that we can do with NESTRE, with our mind. Anything that would help us become the best version of ourselves, we were really into just helping not just us, our brethren, who are going through struggles, whether it's leaving the league, mental struggles, what have you, just trying to create a space or be an inspiration and at the end of the day. And with Tommy, when Tommy came into the picture, he wrote the letter. Rob was like, yo, you see this? He showed it to me and I'm like, what is this? NESTRE, like, what is this? So we looked it up and was like, oh, shoot. I just remember the first thing that really stuck. I don't know if it was after, I think it's probably after actually talking to Tommy one time. It was like, did you know you could build, like you build muscle in the gym, you could do that with your brain? And for us at the time, being, when the concussion movie came out towards the end of my career, when concussions were just like, you say it was building steam in the wrong way for the NFL, essentially. What Tommy's doing here with NESTRE, it was a potential solution for the whole league, for sports in general, as we're going through this whole concussion, epidemic, But to have a solution where there was no solution, to have a way for people to go where there was no way, that's huge. Tommy himself had his own story, has his own testimony. I know people like Tommy that they have their own testimony, but it didn't come out on the right side of things because there wasn't anything for them to do. There wasn't enough data out there for people to know where to go. They didn't know about NESTRE. So, and my first contact with Tommy and just the impact that I know that concussion movie had on me in my career, and the same impact was had when I understood, the science and what Tommy was trying to accomplish, because I know how big it is.
Yeah, I think it was awesome, the conversation, because that concussion time and era was a time people was thinking about it, but this wasn't the technology just for concussion. This was, what if you can get insights into your neural efficiency, into, your cognitive strength, and then what if you can train your mind and your brain like you've trained your body? What would that change? And they were like, this would be game changing.
Yeah.
He was like, why are we not doing this?
Yeah.
And so that's the part that I think has been, really awesome in building this relationship, because you get to have one of the greatest to ever do it, see technology, and he's going, this technology should be everywhere. Like, this is the future. And for him to go, no, we not only we want this, we need this. The world needs this, because we can help people exercise from the neck up across the board. And that kind of became our tagline, making mind and brain fitness a lifestyle.
I think you said it the best, though. Like, it's not just like you say concussion protocol, really. I think it's really about just becoming, you said a little bit too in a roundabout way, it's really just about becoming the best version of yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Really understanding yourself.
And I think that's what we're so excited about this series, is because we get to, share our fun relationship stories with the people that we bring here, but also kind of give people the highlights of your highlights. Like, and take inspiration from, people being able to hear your story and say, hey, like I resonate with some of the things that he kind of experienced with this high performing. And maybe that's something that I can find in myself and then kind of work out. And so I really want to get into these insights and kind of talk about what's under the hood.
And so this is always awesome because we get to pull data. We tell people the data's the data. So like, we know you. And when they hear it, they're like, this is awesome.
Right.
Like, it is so spot on. And so we're going to pull a couple of highlights. So we say we get mind data and we get brain data. Mind data around your cognitive preferences and brain data around your cognitive performance or your cognitive capabilities, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about it, the cognitive performance side around under high stress. From a brain performance perspective, it's the higher cognitive demand that's required to do something. When you have to recruit a ton of cognitive resources, whether you're in a high stakes situation, under high stress, dealing with heavy load, and it requires you to function at the fastest frequency with the most resources being recruited. Often it's what separates the not so good from the good and the good from the great and the great from the GOATs. How efficient are you in moments that matter? And so we're going to say, for conversation's sake, we're going to look at this under his high demand, high stress areas. We call them your top 6 and bottom 6. Okay. In football, they like to use this analogy around ceilings and floors when you start talking about potential, right? Your ceiling meaning, what's your potential that you can reach. Your floor is what's the bottom, what's the base, worst case scenario, right? And so we're going to look at Calvin's top 6 under high stress, high rigor. And again, spoiler alert, all of his scores are elite. So think Madden, take it always to the end, like 99, welcome to the 99 club, but at like 6 things. And it's probably more than that. We just take the top 6. But I want to start with the mind piece because it connects with the brain performance piece. And so cognitive preferences with our mindset profile, Calvin's profile is he's 44% alpha, he's 32% cerebral, and he's 24% prime. And so those 3 areas, alpha is more your novelty, opportunity seeking, loves the challenge piece. Cerebral is more of your structured, routine, calculated. And really what you're doing is you're creating enough systems that you're de-risking the situation. You're increasing confidence by your ability to know what's going on.
And that's just a way in which someone's brain is wired.
100%. Yeah. And then he's 24% prime, which is the flexibility to be able to move between being an alpha and being a cerebral when he needs to. So really balanced mindset. But some of the things that stood out that you probably wouldn't think when you see Megatron on the field, 6'5", 230, 4'3", with the black visor, and you're in trouble. But now I'm getting you into the mind of Megatron because I want y'all to see y'all had no chance. You had no chance. His profile, his cognitive preferences, how his mind and brain prefers to experience the world. Where does he go in the high performance situations? And so the first thing it says when it pops up is that he is a strategic individual who's process oriented. Calvin is a strategist at a high level. He's not one to not operate out of structure. He prefers structure. He prefers to eliminate uncertainty. And he's processing opportunities from a strategic point of view. On the outside, you may think just raw, brute skill. But on the inside, you're literally dealing with a calculated strategist ninja. He is scheming on how to dominate everything. It's not just the big and the gun and it's the setup. It's the strategy. And it shows on his brain as well. And so, but I want to stop and pause there for a second because I just want to.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Okay, I got you. Quick example: we're playing the Bears. I got Peanut Tillman. Smart player.
Shout out to Peanut.
That's my dog,
his own technique.
The peanut punch. I say I've never been a victim to it my whole career, thank God. But I tell you this though, Peanut's a smart player. We know that. The thing with Peanut though is I'll skip all the way to the end of the game. It's like third down, maybe like 5 or something like that. And this is to win the game. Either we win the game or they win the game, black and white. And we've been running slants all game. We've been running sluggos too. So he's seen them both. So it's at the point at the end of the game where I have to start, setting up my routes because I know it's coming at the end of the game when it's going to be a third down. I know we're going to run this slant route. So I got to set up myself throughout the game to make things look exactly the same.
For when it matters.
For when it matters. I need that slant to look exactly like that slant that I won on. He has to look exactly like that slant that I won on. And that's what I'm thinking about going into these last couple of drives of the game. Like, how do I make all my stuff look exactly right, the same for the setup, for the okie doke? So
listen to what he just said. Yeah. Like, he's playing the game in real time in a way to make sure that in the moment that matters, he's creating a pattern to take advantage of the defense. Like,
it's just very forward thinking as well.
Which you wouldn't think is actually happening. No. Like, you got to play this play.
Yeah.
Like, you got to run this play. But he's running it with the future in mind. And he's processing how they're defending it. So when the fourth quarter comes up in the play that matters, he's baiting us. So he's setting us up to think we know what's happening this whole time. And we're taking false information as a defensive back. I'm really mad now. I was looking forward to all of this data until I see now how it's been utilized against my kind. I thought you are Megatron. You're evil. Like, you're not the good guy.
I'm not to the defense. I'm not.
That's
fantastic.
But so if you were to put that into real life, so think about how what you do today influences, where you are tomorrow. But people that's a very difficult thing to do.
100%.
Is to operate in the present with the future in mind.
It takes intentionality to get to that place of like thinking about how this moment today, what I say, like what you talked about earlier, how I come off to a fan, it's going to impact that next conversation. And you really talked about that strategy in the example you gave earlier in your everyday life of like, I am Calvin Johnson. I've done a lot of great things and I know that I carry, a lot of weight and I carry myself in a way where I can honor that name, that weight. And that is strategy too. I'm just like, that is a great example of real time, real life application. And I kind of have a question just for a viewer who is looking and, wanting to just gather insight for themselves. Like, what do you attribute that high performing mentality to? I mean, how you were raised or experiences?
I think it just goes back to how I was raised. And it wasn't one specific thing. It was a bunch of different things, like from, your parents telling you if you do anything, do it to the best of your ability. Or my mom always telling me, be aware of my surroundings. Bring the best attitude and your best effort. And more times than not, you can come out on top of things. I think it's just a combination of all those things coming together along with learned experiences and understanding what you do and do not like, what you're passionate about. I'm very passionate about, certain things. And those are the things that's the reason why I act, because I don't like laziness. I don't like when you're rude. I don't want to be, I don't want to let my teammates or anybody down. I want to be accountable, So just things that you learn through sport, through being raised with your family, and just some of those hard things or hard lessons I learned too, just like I was talking about with the lady, Don't want to be an asshole in her eyes, but I was the first time I met her. I had the opportunity to correct that, but we seldom get the opportunity to change those things.
Right. I mean, and that's just a snippet, of it. And look, if you want to see if your mindset profile is like Calvin Johnson's, if you want to see if you're a 44 alpha, what was that? 32 cerebral, 24 prime, go take your profile, see what it is. See, you may have a Calvin Johnson mindset, but you can't go try to fake it to get to those numbers and just be you. But you couldn't be close to Calvin. And so that's the mind part.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this brain performance piece, this top 6 under high demand, high stress piece. And I want to tell you what's interesting about this. And so these top 6 areas look very similar to someone that we had on our show who's a surgeon. So there's some similarities. The strategic, skilled brain of a surgeon in Megatron. The other part that's hilarious about this is, can you tell the people what else your siblings do?
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so I'm one of 4. Got an older sister that is a doctor, research doctor, professor. It's me. Then it's my little brother who's a general surgeon, specializes in like liver and kidney transplants. And then my youngest sister, she's not a doctor, but she has a good job that she's working, doing some kind of contracting stuff for the government.
Oh, wow.
So listen to these 6 top areas. And this is why it's hilarious, because you get to get inside the mind of Megatron. He's literally a surgeon on the football field. That's 6'5", 230, 4'3".
And just to clarify, so the mind, what we discussed earlier, is more around like performance and
it's more around preferences. It's how does your mind and brain prefer to experience the world? Where does your mindset go in moments that matter most?
Okay.
And then the brain data is us really literally taking brain performance data, and we get to quantify what makes you, what's these performance areas. And his first area, his first top elite area, this highest scoring area under high duress, is logical processing. He's elite at being sound and anchored rules and processes, things he still have access to, which again, that surgeon type piece.
Yeah. My life is on the line.
Logical processing, strategic planning. He's strategizing in real time in fast environments, high demand, auditory, verbal, processing. He's taking in auditory information in real time in front of hundreds of thousands of people, all types of stuff, chaos going on, quarterbacks communicating to him. He has to take that, process it. But the way he's able to do it and all of that is because he has this logical, strategic brain. On the outside, you're dealing with one of the rarest humans, but on the inside, you're dealing with a supercomputer. Imagine if a team or an organization was able to capture data. If you saw this guy, you're taking him.
Yeah, if I was a scout GM and I had access to data like this, where I can see, obviously we get able to see all the physical attributes, but we can get inside of a guy's head, which they try so hard to do and are not successful with,
right.
But this is exactly that. It tells you what they are, it tells you who they are. And if I could have that 100%, it would be a valuable tool for me to use as an administrator or somebody in the executive office of any kind of sports organization.
But I can't make this up. 2 other elite ones. Motor planning. How he just sat here and said he's thinking about how he's moving with intentionality to set people up for how he's going to move later. And then motor stability, which is your ability literally to be able to move and stay upright in upright positions. I mean, I think about Lynn Swan. I think about people who you go, oh man, they have phenomenal body control, but they're not 6'5", 230 running a 4'3". So on top of that and this, now you got to deal with the fact that you just can't get them on the ground either. This is what you would expect a GOAT to look like.
Yeah.
I honestly, I have even a greater appreciation for what made you amazing. Because there was this aura and lore about you. You had the dark visor and nobody could ever see. There was no. It was like there was no feelings. It was just like you're just out there. But to be able to know you as a person, but now to be able to get inside and to see you were elite in this recipe. There were no gaps. That's so impressive.
The biggest thing though, I think that, and it brings all this together, I feel like, is that all that stuff wasn't like that from the beginning. All that stuff was gained. Just like we're talking about here, with neuroplasticity, all those things were gained. a lot of that came through experience. And then a lot of it was that I love to compete. So me loving to compete, me getting those extra reps and one-on-ones, that added to that instinct
You were building it.
that allowed me to make those or pre-plan those things that I was trying to do because I've done it before. I've seen what it looked like, so just experience and just being able to do it. So
you tell us what it's like, the fact that we got inside of your brain and we're telling you what made you a GOAT. How accurate is it, and what is it like on your side being able to hear this data for the first time?
I think I told you I took some kind of personality test before. It was not like this as far as in depth. It definitely dove deeper as far as, what I learned from my disc profile. And this kind of told me, how the mind operates, as far as preference.
Yeah.
And then how the brain operates as far as efficiencies.
Yeah.
That's such a big thing. And I think just through my own experiences, I was able to just make those gains in those places, not even have any, understanding of the science and what you're doing at the time. Here it was just learned experiences. But now I can see through the science that you're, through the data that you're bringing to light, that, wow, these lived experiences can add up to those things. Even more so, all those things can be gained by people.
Yes.
Where you are right now doesn't mean that you have to be there later. So.
I love what you said about the lived experiences. You don't have to understand the science to know that you can take what you've been through and turn it into something, and use it and apply it and mold it. And then it becomes whatever it becomes. And hearing you say that is awesome because it gives people hope that it's like, all right, what am I doing today?
Right.
That will help me get to where I envision myself to be. And what choices am I making intentionally to help kind of wire my brain?
You said it a couple of times. It's all about intentionality. You got to be intentional about it. That's the first step.
Yeah, I think the part that is awesome for listeners too is, you're saying I wasn't born the GOAT. I became a GOAT. I worked at it. I perfected it. From a science sense, that's just saying you strengthened it. You built the templates. And we all get an opportunity to create that recipe. Most people from the outside looking in, they just go, well, the GOATs are just special. And that's really not how the science says. We all have parameters, but there's the ability with intentionality to become great in who you are if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to put in the time, if you do something that you love enough that you start to download it at an elite level, whether that's a CEO, a surgeon, a mom, a dad, a teacher, a lawyer, an actor, a singer, whatever it is. There's the ability to create elite level, performance from putting the work in. And so I think that's awesome because you can speak to that. And we've heard some of the other greats do the same thing.
I have a fun question that I wanted to ask. It was going to be an icebreaker, but we just broke right in. No ice to break. So what is one thing people don't know about you? Whether it's like music, a fashion taste.
I am an avid, and I love, if I could snowboard all year, I would. I love to snowboard.
So do you do trips?
Oh yeah, I'm going to Big Sky, going to Aspen. You put me on a mountain and I am living my best life. And I would have never known that until I first tried it. My wife got me out there. She's like, come on, let's go skiing. I'm like, baby, I don't do nothing on ice. She got me out there one time and it was a wrap. It was a wrap. I love the snow being from the South because we never saw it. And just going up the mountain and coming down the board, it's a pastime for me.
Wow, that is something I wouldn't have thought. I'm glad that you came on and shared with us. And obviously, we can't wait to have you back. I think this was a great conversation. So we are so honored that you came in.
No, this is special. No, it's a great conversation. We went deep there. And hopefully, I hope that, like I say, it's inspiring to folks. Not just people, but institutions out there, schools out there, wellness, places out there that are just trying to help people become the best version of themselves because there's an opportunity to do it. You spoke to it. You're going to either operate on your floor or on your ceiling. Yeah. We're probably going to find, you're going to be somewhere in between, but what are you striving for essentially at the end of the day?
Absolutely. Well, we thank you for coming to hang out with us. Yeah. Again, I just want to just say, world-class athlete, like we're even seeing now, world-class mind and brain, but by far world-class human.
Appreciate it.
Like, you know.
Yeah. Great first time meeting you.
No, pleasure. Absolutely.
You did a good job. The template you made, it worked. Okay. Great person.
Thank you.
Definitely a Hall of Fame human.
Yeah.
And I tell people that all the time. And so, man, it's been awesome having you on. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to this GOAT series. Is going to be great.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for the other guests that we're going to be having on, and can't wait for you to see who we have on.
Y'all have some good questions, so I can only imagine y'all get some good content. So.
Oh, yeah. And always, if you want to come and experience the NESTRE experience, we are more than just a podcast. You can come and get trained just like Calvin and get some data insights on how your mind and brain prefer to experience the world. And if you are not able to come to where we are, you can always download the NESTRE app and you can get quality experience there and train and get some insights and potentially see Calvin in the app and hear a little bit more about his story. So, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.